The electronic balances that we have are a wonderful piece of equipment to help us measure masses very quickly and very accurately. However, they're often one of the biggest sources of error in labs, mostly because of the misuse of the tare button.
The weighing dish.
The tare button is located right here on these particular balances, and what it does, it basically subtracts whatever's on the balance. Right now you can see that the balance reads 0. If I put an object on the balance, such as this beaker, we can see that the mass has changed. If I hit the tare button, that subtracts it. And now you see the mass still reads 0, even though there's something on the balance. Now, if I want to know the mass of the beaker, I want to make sure that it says 0 before I put the beaker on. So I would hit tare. Now it says 0. Now I'll put the beaker on, and I'll have the mass of the beaker. If I then were to put an object in it, as is, now I have the mass of the beaker and the substance that is in the beaker. I have both. However, many times in lab, we're not interested in the mass of the beaker or the mass of the weighing dish. We're interested just of the mass of the chemical that we're putting in it. So, for example, if I have some sugar, and I want to know what mass of sugar that I'm using, I'll obviously need to put something down. I never will put a chemical directly on the pan, so I'll need either a beaker or a weighing dish, such as this one. I'll put that down. Now right now it's showing me the mass of the weighing dish, 1.47 grams. If I add the sugar to it, that'll be the mass of the sugar and the weighing dish. But I don't want the weighing dish, so I can hit the tare button. That'll subtract the weighing dish, and now I can pour the sugar in, and the mass that it's giving me now, 5.69 grams, is simply the mass of the sugar. So the big thing to remember when you're using the balance is you want the balance to say 0 before you put whatever you're measuring. Okay, so if I want to measure the beaker, I want to hit 0 first. Now I put the beaker on. Now that's the mass of the beaker. If I pour the sugar in that, now since I didn't hit 0 now, that will be the mass of both the beaker and the sugar. So you just have to be really careful of when you push that tare button so that you know exactly what this number you're seeing down here is measuring. And that's one of the biggest sources of error that we have in our labs. When you're trying to measure out a desired mass of a chemical, it's important that you don't put too much of the chemical. Let's say I was measuring 2 grams of sugar. Well, I would first use a beaker or a weighing dish, put that on. Now I don't want the mass of that dish, so I'll hit the tare button. So it says 0. And now I want to put 2 grams of sugar in. Now it's very important that I don't go over, because remember, as soon as that chemical hits another container, I consider it contaminated. So if I put more than 2 grams in, I can't just scoop it out and put it back in this bottle. We want to keep these bottles pure. So what we want to try to do is to ease up to that 2 grams without going over. So I'll use my spatula to put a certain amount in. Now, I might not know how much of this looks like 2 grams. So if I just dump this whole thing in, I might go over. And if I just dump it this way, I don't have very good control of how well it flows into the dish. And it might go nothing, nothing, and then all at once. And so what I use is what I call the tap method to allow this. Notice if I just slowly tap on this spatula, notice that it just slowly puts an even amount in. Now if I want 2 grams, I can watch the balance there and get an idea that I'm not very close yet. And so I'm going to need about another one of those scoopfuls. And notice I'll, again, just lightly tap on this, making sure all of the sugar, in this case, goes in the pan, and I can just slowly watch it ease up to my 2 grams. I have very good control. I can just get a couple grains at a time in this way. And we'll just slowly ease up to 2 grams.